Hi Ajay, hi Bala, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and just
Good
accept.
afternoon.
Good afternoon to both of you. Welcome to this discussion. This is part of the Climafix Summit 2023 Insight Series, where we talk to key experts, startups, investors who are part of the Indian climate tech ecosystem and take their inputs. Today, I have the pleasure of having Ajay and Bala, both from Anicut Capital. Anicut Capital is an alternative investment fund, and they have different funds. They have a seed fund, they have a growth equity fund, they have more. I think Bala and Ajay, as they go along, will tell you more. They have been in the sector, they have been investing in multiple sectors, and of late, last 2-3 years, they have also been focusing a lot on climate tech. In climate tech, I know that they have already invested in a couple of very interesting startups, be it Orovo Labs, which is into water sustainability, into Clareco, into ePlane, which is a very prominent startup from IIT Madras. So it's a pleasure to have both Bala and Ajay. Bala is the co-founder of Anicut. Ajay is a partner in the venture capital firms. Today, I thought we will take you guys through their story. They will take us through the story. They have an interesting story. They started in Chennai. They have an interesting name. So we are going to hear all about it. Welcome once again, Bala and Ajay.
Thank you, Narsi. Thank you. I think thanks for having us. It is the second year on the trot. We are being associated with Climafix. I think we are happy about it. And I'm sure, this initiative keeps growing, and we continue to be part of it for the years to come. So thanks for that. Thanks for having us. That's one. You asked a question, how did Anicut come about? So it's quite often what you think is that, the investee companies think being an investor is an easy job, being a fund manager is an easy job. It's quite unlikely. It's not so. It's more so with Anicut because it's an Indian, firm. It's an Indian capital, rupee capital. On also top of it, it's founded by two professionals, am I right? By myself and Ashwin. In 2015, it came about. We are roughly about 8 years old. So, we are also in a way financial services entrepreneur and first generation entrepreneurs from that perspective. First couple of years, you asked how good they were or how were they? I would say they were good in terms of experiences. They were not so good in terms of business, like every other business goes through. What it taught us to be resilient, what it taught us to be like, I think, more out on the roads, meeting investors, convincing them that this is what we are trying to do. We are wanting to be a local firm, local investment management firm with capital from Indian high net worth individuals and family offices, as well as Indian institutions. And we will be only rupee capital for a long time to come. So I think, imagine like it was not an easy task. And we also told ourselves one more thing. We said we will not have anyone in between, anyone in between us, which is between the investor as well as the asset management company which we founded. So the job is that we are to meet every investor and every investor company. And investors, when you don't have a name, it's just that like on your personal reputation and personal experience and your personal career choices which you've made, investors have to decide and invest in you. So obviously, we knocked the doors of people whom we know for many years as part of my banking career. Also, my co-founder, Ashwin Chada's, his investment banking as well as investment experience career. So, one thing I can tell you, people who know us well never gave us money, in the beginning. People who didn't know us gave us the money and said, like, I think, go and experiment this. I still remember one conversation. One of the large companies, founders, which is a multi-billion-dollar company, listed company, one of the largest, Indian listed company. He told us that I think I want Indian fund managers to come. I don't want all this foreign funds to come and dominate India. I want Indian managers to come. Tell me how much money you're going to raise. So I think we set a number which was lower than what we were supposed to raise because we were not so confident. And then once that number was given, he said, I will write 1% of it. So I and Ashwin were kicking ourselves, like ideally, like we should have said a little more. We would have got a little more money. So that's the kind of experiences, but it taught us a lot of things. There are days in which like we have been to cities without any meetings, stayed there for 3 days, take references, and then like I think meet a couple of people, slept in the afternoon in the room without having any meetings, but it kept us going. But the one good thing is like after 8 years, I can say we have got more than 100 odd family offices and HNIs and institutions. All of them are direct investors. Now today they pick up the call on us and we pick up the call on them. So it's a happy family of good investor community and investee companies and a good team of Anicut. So that's how it went about. So first 2 years, in nutshell, great experiences, a little to say on business.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think that was very well articulated. So that brings me to even slightly before your first 2 years, and that's the name itself. Being a Tamilian myself, I can appreciate the name Anicut. I knew the moment I heard it, it should have something to do with Anicut. But you're going to tell the audience more about how you came about it, what is the significance of the name, and all about the name itself.
Thanks, Narsi. I think okay, couple of things. One is before we get into Anicut, my name has a long surname. I'm known as IAS Balamurugan. Most of the times people start off saying that what is this IAS? Are you a civil officer, civil service officer, or what does it denote? So there was always a curiosity to have the name which should initiate conversations. So that was one of our ideas. Okay, so that was actually a smaller issue, but we always said like I think we should have an Indian name. Why should we have names like which is coming from outside of India? Can it be a Sanskrit name? Can it be local languages name? Can it be of historical importance and everything? So the important empire in Indian history is Cholas. Probably they are the longest number of years in power, more than 800, 900 years. The dynasty last. It is one of the wonderful dynasty like which built temples, like which had empires like outside of the country in Southeast Asia. And it had engineering marvels like in terms of your temples, irrigation and stuff like that. So what actually like inspired me like from my younger days is to read the history and talk about the kind of achievements they had. So here we are, which is the Grand Anicut, which is in Tamil, which is known as Kallanai, which is a man-made dam, which is probably the third oldest man-made dam in the world, and the first one, the oldest dam in India, which still stands on the banks of Kaveri near Trichy and Tanjore, and it still irrigates. It stands at the same place for 1,800 years. It still irrigates. The place is not moved. It's such a monumental achievement, and probably like I think one of the thoughts when I and Ashwin were talking, see, investment business is nothing but creating wealth. So what is the single biggest wealth creating event in some of our Indian history? And probably like Grand Anicut came into our mind because it came 1,800 years back, and it irrigated a lot of lands. It created so much of wealth. In 600 years down the line, the Cholas went and dominated. They built all the big temples, like I think across Chola kingdom. So it took so many years, like I think, but there was one incident of building one asset of building a good dam on Kaveri, took care of them for the next, like I think, 1,000 years. So we were saying, okay, we should be like a dam which collects money from investors, accumulates it, and then releases it as and when it is needed for good harvesting or even for planting. So that was a thought. So Anicut is a dedication to Cholas, the tribute to Cholas. It's one of the finest monuments. So that's how Anicut came in. It's as Indian one could be, as pride one could be an Indian name, Tamilian name. And in South Indian names, like Anicut is pronounced with little bit of Anikati, Anikatu, but like I think it's one and the same in South Indian languages. So, so the one thing I would say is I have a Punjabi founder. I could convince him that like Anicut is the best name, and then he agreed promptly. India has one big. I think that's
so. I think it's a value long term. I think both these are there in Anicut. It's providing value, and you said in a very interesting, productive manner. and it's been there for 2000 years. So you guys want to think, well, yes, there are going to be times when you can be maybe smart about some of the investments you make, its value and long term that are going to be sustainable over the long period of any investment fund. I think that's probably what you guys were also looking at when you named it. Anicut, quickly on to a few more questions. So this, Ajay, it's both for you and for Bala. I know you guys do a lot of investments. I saw on your website you have a 2000 crore AUM. So you guys have been doing a lot of investments. What differentiates what you guys do when it comes to investments from others? Even though, yes, there are going to be things that are very similar to what others do, because at the end of the day, there are some things in finance that don't change. Surely there are other things you may want to do differently. Specifically, when it comes to emerging verticals like climate tech, how do you see some of your investment philosophies being different from others? This is addressed both to Ajay and Bala. Maybe Ajay can start.
Yeah, thank you, Nasi. See, as you suggested and you summarized when Bala was talking about why Anicut, it's a value creation for the long time. That's how the Anicut seed fund works upon. We love to become early in the stage of the founder's journey, be a part of that value creation round, not looking for growth, but looking for those value creation and building a value for the long term. That's what the thesis for Anicut Seed Fund to come in. That's what we play around. Differentiation, as we always said that whenever we are evaluating some founder, we always look for what differentiate you from the other startups in the similar domain in the competitive world. So I think that's being relevant enough for the funds who are being investing in. As I said, that value creation. Nowadays, founders are smart enough to understand who are the one who will be their early partners. Because when we said early investment is not investment, it's a partnership. It's a long-driven partnership. So what does it differentiate between the early and the growth stage? Broadly, at early stage, they have been looking for more than money. They are looking for how you can be, quote unquote, our go-to guys for anything if required. That's how we build our thesis. That's how we differentiate ourselves. Differentiation that we build is always being for us to talk about when it's being a standard product in terms of VC fund investing being a standard product. The differentiation is definitely towards the approach that we take. Being early, our approach toward founders first. Is this the right guy? Have vision. Again, have a vision to build a long-term organization. Have a domain expertise. Have that will and just to take this with the support of the ecosystem player like us. Having said that, then the another value addition that we bring into the system, which is being the quality of the network. In Anicut Seed Fund, we have a group of angels who come together and put across money in each deal. And we continue to give a working experience like they've been working with the fund. They have been working closely with the team, but they have a large network to access. What that mean in early days? It means to open up doors quickly for them, to go for that first pilot, to reach out that corporate, to say that, okay, I have a product, test me out, help me validate the businesses, help me validate my technology, my product. That's what we love to do as a team, as we are being into industry, doing this across for 20 years, the family office network, the LP networks that we have, and then the corporate access that we bring in. We love to bring that network as a consolidation for our founders to work for. Idea is simple. Come to the company, help them to validate, strategize, and scale them faster. That's what we add value to the system when we invest in. The other critical part, which are being the thesis from the day one, and I always say this when I joined Anicut, and that's what the things came from Ashwin and Bala, skin in the game. It's not about just collating money and investing. It's all about being there. It's all about taking your own risk, validate your thesis of investment. So we have a skin in the game model where wherever at the seed stage we invest in, the team invests their personal capital in each and every deal. We believe if I like the opportunity and we can't risk our capital, we have no right to take that to our network and say that you explore and you invest, which also help us to works on a hands-on strategy with the founder. We are there, we have invested, that help us to work very closely, build stronger relationship and partnership with the founders. So we are very hands-on with the founder. We are there for any given time and day, we are being there. I always believe the founders work for 24/7 and make us work 24/7. That's what we like about being in this sector. So that's what the differentiation we have been trying to put it across. As Bala said that Anicut is being started by first generation entrepreneur. So we think what we lack at the time when we starting off with those expertise, now we have built those expertise over the year. We want to make the new entrepreneur journey easy in terms of identifying those risks, putting across those stronger processes, look forward to how to go about at the time of scaling. This is what we do on a day in, day out.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So, Bala, I think he has been able to pretty much articulate a whole lot of how you guys use the fundamentals as well as try to be a bit different. Some things that stay in my mind. One is you guys get in very early. Of course, many people can say that, but it looks like the second thing where you guys use a network, which is a fairly diverse network, adds a lot more meat to it, and finally having a lot more skin in the game, working as many 24/7 as your startup companies are. These are three things that stay in my mind. Anything you want to add to it, Bala, to what he said?
No, I think Ajay has covered wonderfully. Probably one can say, we are a little more, having risk appetite in terms of exploring areas which have not been explored by a few people. So I would want to put it that way. It's a very mild way of putting out, saying that we are open to new ideas and new opportunities.
Yeah, I remember you investing in Urovan Labs, for instance, which is a fairly new thing for India. Many people might have hesitated. It's of course everything is early days, but it's an interesting take where I think you guys were willing to stick your neck out.
See, I think the point is, some of these are 0 or 1 binary. If it works wonderfully well. If it doesn't work, probably you're left with nothing. But having said that, one trend which I would say, Narsi, there are a lot of good brains, which is for lack of capital and lack of entrepreneurship ecosystem, left the country and moved on to places where it was available. But today, for the last 2 decades or 1 decade, I think last 1.5 decades, there is a good entrepreneurial ecosystem, but there is also a good capital ecosystem which is available in the last 5-7 years, which is domestic, which can write those capital, which can provide that capital, where young minds can experiment. So if the best of brains have to stay back and access this capital, and if few of the failures can be made up with few of the winners, I think, would it not be wonderful? I think, so that's where I think it becomes interesting. So, the good thing is the best of brains are staying back.
Got it. So how do you guys plan to continue forward in future? But before that, outside of Urovan Labs, which I know pretty well because I've been reading a lot about them, I understand you guys have invested in Clareco, invested in ePlane. These are some companies I am aware of in the climate tech sector. What have been your experiences or highlights so far in the brief period you have been investing in climate tech? Anything that stands out in your mind that differentiates these investments from the investments you have made in the rest of the verticals?
So let me begin, Narsi, by saying that the climate tech or focusing on conscious brands or techs or product is being a key thesis from the day one of our inception from the seed fund side. If you see, we believe that the brand and the ecosystem now need to work across toward bringing those climate efficiency. We want to get to a better world to be provided to our next generations. Having said that, the thesis is pretty simple. What we understand, and as an investor, you always look for what are the gaps in the market, and if the gaps are large enough, you think there can be a large, bigger opportunities, and the businesses can be built there. We definitely believe that there are a lot of gaps. If you take simple example of Clerico, indoor clean air as a thing, which is becoming a very costly with those air filters, larger equipments dominated by the global worlds. He come across very simple, so easier product to install and able to scale it better for a large real estate world. And similarly, the Urugu water is a problem we all know, and the way we are being consuming groundwater, it will become a harsh reality for a future generation. So one, definitely first we understand the need as a regular evaluation, whether it's a climate tech on the other. Broadly, first you go across and see what are the gaps in the market and how those gaps can be filled across, and what the product that you're being looking for, how scalable that product. And definitely in climate tech, our founder first approach helps us because we are building a thesis on the gap. Yes, there is a gap exists. Yes, there is a larger opportunity can be built. But the major one is this team be able to deliver? That will give us a confidence to say that, okay, no, we can take that bet. As Bala said, we can take those early risks, a binary bets, which is more toward the founder driven, taking into account that there is enough opportunities to build it. So giving an access to a capital to a young team and say that, okay, go build. There is a market, there is a need for this product, go and build. That's what we love to do. And the climate tech definitely, because of that, become a very good use case for us. As to give a simple example, 10% of my portfolio is in climate tech. We have overall deployed roughly about 40 crore, and those companies have either a co-investors have led next round, have enabled 250 crore being raised in last 3.5 years, which has been a very early journey for us to see across in validations and all that stuff. But definitely to talk about even my first portfolio, the things that we were very confident about, which is a consumer brand called Neiman's, bringing across the sustainable footwear in the market. As we said that the climate is not to be just look into across a tech to drive water from the air. There are much more way that you can keep on doing and building product which will help climate. Now bringing those sustainability or even talking about a sustainable packaging. This is also being causing pollution, impacting environment. If you have a sustainable packaging, there are a lot of works being happening on that. Recycling is also being the stuff. Decarbonization, there are a lot more opportunities. The only thing is that what we are being saying now, the founder are got interested enough to look this sector as a business opportunity, which was 5 years down the line was looked across as a social network. You're being more reliant upon CSR activity to raise, and then which is not become a feasible for a VC fund to come in with those revenue and the thesis model. But now definitely founder are understood. There can be a use case, there can be a business, and there can be large scalable self-sustaining businesses can be built. So therefore, if you see in last 4-5 years, how the Indian context in the climate tech have become very active, where now a lot of growth funds are also being looking into climate tech, and primarily I'm being amazed to see where they have been coming across and funding the hardware plays as well in the climate tech, where generally we have seen very few VC fund in a growth sector where a focus on a little asset heavy or a hardware focused businesses.
Yeah,
So
got
having
it.
said that, a few of the examples, as I said, that Neiman's was there. We have Clerico, as you mentioned, clean air as a product, electricity efficiency to bring in for the large real estates. We have Urugu, water from the air. We have E-Plane bringing eVTOL, EV plane for urban mobility. We have e-charger enablers for the EV adoption. We have been building across infrastructure, battery infrastructure, and the swapping networks to help adopt the EV ecosystem in India. Urja, which one of the companies we met in your first Climapex, and we have gone ahead and invested in them, who are providing a tech tool for this, for enabling and fostering the R&D process for batteries, for fuel cells, innovative ways. He's also been working in a climate tech because he's become an enabler for those who are working in that, helping them to go faster with the product into the market. Recent investment that we did is Ellipsol, which is being a product helping to enhance the productivity of the solar power. We always understood the solar power with respect to the capacity is always underutilized, with respect to the asset versus the electricity generation. They have been helping, they have the product, they've been working on building their first version, which will be out in a month's time, to increase that efficiency throughput by 40 to 50%. So that's what we have been talking about, the ecosystem. In every opportunity, you can be touch base somewhere or somewhat the climate, whether a tech, tool, enablers, so on and so forth. So the opportunity is very large, and we say the next era is going to be for the climate tech as the ecosystem have now matured largely with respect to early stage investor growth stage, and even founders understanding that this is a business problem, this is a business use case. This is not just a social problem.
Yeah, I think the last point you made, that's what really caught my interest. And that's where probably, guys like you, Bala, and quite a few others in the sector can play a much larger role. What you said something that was very interesting. What was still a few years back considered a social activity, right? Considered probably close to charity, is today becoming a business, because the government is saying it is no longer nice to have. It is becoming a must-have for especially businesses. And if it's a must-have for business, the business has to spend. So
Yes.
opportunity arises, gaps exist. Very interesting. Bala, is there anything you would like to add? And I would also like you to continue with what your future plans are after you have told me your idea of some of the highlights of your climate investing. Go ahead, Bala.
No, I was just thinking, see, what is this? It's a, sustainability is a minimalistic way of living, in a way. Okay, so to philosophically put it, having grown, been eating on banana leaves for major part of your childhood days, and then you moved across to all these fancily made plates, which you know very well. I think they can be reused, but I think nothing to beat banana leaf. You dispose it off, you don't need to wash it. It's like light on people, in terms of work wise, and you throw it back. It becomes mud. It gets recycled. It becomes good fertilizer for the next crop. So you've seen that.
In a way, just to stop you, Bala, in a way, your Anicut is a very nice term once again. Many of these sustainability things are actually going back to some of the roots that India has always had. Go ahead.
Correct. So that's the point. So it's a more a philosophical thought rather than a business opportunity itself. Okay. So if you always have extremes playing out in the shortest time, then you move back to mean. So I think your consumerism and resource exploitation, I think happens, but you would have always a pushback in terms of what is this all about? I think this is not okay. This is not all right. So then things come back. So I think Ajay made this point very well. So I think it's no more the days for activism. It's a day. It's a days for picking up best of brides instead of channelizing on activism. Asking them to work on real life solutions, which would have a commercial sense, so that I think it produces enough, the capital multiplies, it comes back again to make sure the sustainability becomes a movement. So I see that as a, it's a rather financial activism rather than just activism of sorts. So I think that's a good thing which has happened. So I think that's how I would want to put it, from a larger philosophical perspective. It is not that
next 1 to 2 years. Where do you guys see yourself focusing more on within climate tech?
Yeah, Ajay, would you like to take it, Ajay? Then I think probably I can come.
Yeah, sure. Nasi, as an investor, we are also being learning. The ecosystem is changing rapidly, as we said that now the technology come across, you never know within 6 months that became obsolete. The founder is also on a learning treadmill curve. So we are also being learning from the date of investment till we made this investment. Our playbook for climate tech are becoming stronger day by day. We are also being experiencing firsthand in terms of what are the challenges they are being facing, how those being resolved, what are the further gaps that if you're being solving one problem, how that there are another complementary set of business opportunities which if can merge together become a large opportunities to play across. That's what, since we have now been able to understood the nuances, understood what it need for an early stage founder to build across a stronger use cases in the climate tech, we want to double it down. We want to go across, now deploy more capital, invest more early stage companies in the climate tech. As we said that in the first one, we got one opportunity in the climate effects, which we have invested. I'm hoping many more we will find in ClimaFX 2023, which we will talk about in 2024.
So it looks
on
like
those
I should get
investments.
into a, it should, looks like I should get into a contract with you guys on compensation for all this.
Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not?
Go ahead, Ajay. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. So that's what the thought go deeper. I think we have been yet to go deeper into. There are a lot more opportunities. If you see across how the ESG norms are being coming, India need to play a larger game. European market is already being penetrated, compliant well enough. India is gearing up to that. So you will see a lot of these ESG compliance companies will come across. Tech has to play a wider role for the large adoption and scalability, because manually these are being done manually in an auditor reports which they touch upon. Even decarbonization, we need to have a stronger framework there. We need to have we can build a larger business opportunities there. Anything I'm being looking into and will definitely go across recycling and getting into using recycling, getting it to a different use case to build in whichever larger market. We are being very much into it. Alternative fuels. We believe that EV have started coming in. Next wave is going to be hydrogen, as an example. So there will be a lot of innovation need to come across from India in that premise. And the companies who are being either an enabler or being helping to enhance the capabilities of the existing infrastructure. All these are very relevant use cases for us to go deeper, to go build thesis, invest, and as we said, always, we are here. We are here to learn from the founders, get stronger, and learn from our mistake, get stronger, and deploy more capital. Because as you learn more, you get more confident about the sector. You understand more nuances and the gaps of the sector, so you get deeper. If I'm not invested in climate tech, for me to understand the real problem of climate tech is difficult. Now we understood what it takes, how to approach and penetrate in other sectors of climate tech as well.
So in a way, what you're saying is because you started slightly early, you guys are already at a point on the learning curve that you can move much faster, probably much wider. So
Yes.
you're almost at a very important inflection point. Bala?
See, like, let me put it this way. When Ajay talked about how these norms in Western countries are evolved or have evolved, I think maybe a few years earlier. In most of these cases, I think India looks like a laggard to start off. Then when it becomes habituated, I think we actually move faster than others. Okay, it could be many things. It could be our own best founders coming and finding solutions for that, or governmental interventions saying that I think all these things have to be done. So I'm seeing very interesting time for the sustainability, climate tech, these areas, like I think both political government interventions, I think our own sensitivities like as society. So I think it's a question of few years or a decade. Within a decade, we'll be much advanced than some of these guys who started it. I have no doubts in my mind. Okay, this is the case like with digital adoption, mobile adoption. Like I think if you look at we've been laggards for years, and then like in few years we just reverse it, and that would happen here. Take it from me, I think we can catch up after a few years, and we will all I'm hoping that I would come out right. I think which is good for all of us. So so from that perspective, it opens up wonderful opportunities. Both for founders, new ideas, as well as capital providers. So I think let me conclude it by saying good times here to stay and more to come.
Yeah, good times, and from the way you guys are looking at things, maybe faster times. So far, you guys have been on the learning curve. It's climate tech is complex. The field itself is emerging, and some of these are very hard nuts to crack. But I think you guys, because you have invested a different vertical, there is one in air purification. There is one NEMANS, which you said is more of a sustainable materials. There is one in VTOL, that's electric airplanes, and one in water. Who knows? I mean, with this kind of a diverse sectoral experience as well, yeah, good times, faster times are here to come. Folks, thank you very much. Excellent talking to you. Thank you very much for your time. See you both at the Climate Summit. This is on 22-23 September, IIT Madras Research Park. Thank you, both of you, both for being here and for also being a sponsor of the summit. All the very best to Anicut.
Thank you.
Narsi.
Thank you, Narsi.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.